The water recycler made a grinding noise that Danny Reeves did not like. He lay on his back in the maintenance tunnel, elbow deep in pipes and wires, trying to find the source of the problem. Somewhere above him, 200 of the galaxy's worst criminals sat in their cells. Danny did not think about them. He thought about the recycler. The prison transport ship Acheron's Hold was 3 days from its destination. 3 more days, and Danny could take his pay and find work on a quieter vessel. He was tired of carrying monsters through space. A small rock, no bigger than a coin, punched through the ship's hull somewhere in the lower sections. The Acheron's Hold had shields for big threats. It had armor for medium threats. But this tiny piece of debris found a gap in the secondary power grid and sliced through a cable that should have been better protected. The lights flickered. Danny paused his work and looked up 4.7 seconds. That was how long the electromagnetic barriers on cell block Theta went offline. For most prisoners, this meant nothing. They were locked behind solid doors with multiple backup systems. But cell block Theta held the predator species. The ones with claws that could cut through metal. The ones with strength that could bend steel bars. 7 of them were out before the barriers came back online. Grisha was the first through. The Vorkin stood 8 feet tall, covered in dark green scales, with claws that had killed 43 people across 6 star systems. Behind him came Malo, a thornback with 6 limbs and venom that could stop a heart in seconds. Then the twins, Brel and Suna, wolf-like hunters who moved as one. Hask, the Galathi, could change his skin to match any surface. Tyrek had been a military commander before he became a war criminal. They killed 3 guards in the first minute. The blood was warm on Grisha's claws, and he felt alive for the first time in months. Danny heard the alarm through the tunnel walls. It was a specific tone he had heard only in drills. Prisoner escape. He stopped working on a recycler and listened. The alarm cut to static. That was not part of any drill, that he climbed out of the tunnel slowly and carefully. The cargo hold was quiet. Emergency lights painted everything in red. Danny walked to the nearest corridor and stopped, blood on the walls. 3 long claw marks in the metal floor. A guard's helmet, cracked open and empty. Danny studied the marks. He noted the direction they pointed. The spacing between them told him the creature was large, moved on 2 legs, and had been running. He turned and walked the other way. In the command center, Warden Olin Kemby was trying to regain control of her ship. Half her security team was dead. The internal sensors were damaged. She could see fragments of camera footage, but not enough to track the escaped prisoners. She saw Danny on one of the working cameras. A maintenance worker, alone, moving through the lower decks. She tried to reach him on the communicator. Static. Danny found an emergency supply locker. He opened it and looked inside. No weapons. Security kept the weapons locked in a different section, and Danny could not reach that section without crossing the areas where the predators were hunting. So he took what was available. Emergency flares, industrial sealant, a medical kit, 50 meters of high-tensile cable, water purification tablets. That he closed the locker and kept moving. Hask was hungry, not for food, but for the thrill of the hunt. He had been the greatest ambush predator on his world before the authorities caught him. Now he hung from the ceiling of a corridor, his skin matching the metal perfectly, waiting for something to walk beneath him. But he heard footsteps. Soft, careful. A single creature, walking alone. The human came around the corner. Small, no claws, no scales, no venom. Hask had studied the galactic species classifications during his years in prison. Humans were Category 3, herbivore adjacent, minimal threat, easy prey. Hask dropped from the ceiling, claws extended, jaws open. Danny did not scream. He did not freeze. He dropped low and rolled sideways, moving before his brain fully processed what was happening. 15 years in the Australian outback had taught him that when something attacks, you move first and think second. Hask's claws cut through empty air. He landed hard, confused. The prey was supposed to panic. The prey was supposed to die. Danny came up with his maintenance tool in his hand. It was not a weapon. It was designed to pry open access panels. But it was metal, and it was sharp, and Danny drove it into the gap between Hask's scales before the Galathi could turn. Hask screamed and slashed blindly. His claws caught Danny's side, tearing through his uniform and into flesh. But Danny was already moving, already gone, disappearing into an air vent that was too small for Hask to follow. The Galathi stood in the corridor, bleeding, shocked. The prey had hurt him. The prey had fought back. This was wrong. This was broken. Danny crawled through the vent, blood dripping from his side. The wounds were not deep, but they would need attention. He did not panic. Panic was for people who had never faced death before, that he had faced death many times in the outback. He had learned its face. He had learned that it could be patient, and so he had become more patient. Behind him, Hask limped back to find the others. He had a story to tell, a warning to give, but Grisha would not listen to warnings. Not about a human. That would be his first mistake. Hask left a trail of blue blood on the floor as he returned to the pack. The wound in his side burned with every step. He found the others in a storage area, surrounded by the bodies of 2 more guards they had killed. Grisha turned to look at him. The Vorkin's yellow eyes narrowed when he saw the blood. "What happened to you?" "The human," Hask said. "There is a human in the lower decks. It attacked me." Malo, the thornback, made a clicking sound that passed for laughter among his kind. "A human? You were wounded by a human." It was not normal, Hask insisted. It did not run. It did not freeze. It moved like a predator. Grisha walked closer and examined the wound. The cut was deep and clean. Whatever had made it had been driven with force and precision. "A tool," Grisha said. "It used a tool. Humans have no natural weapons. They use tools because they are weak." "It did not feel weak," Hask said quietly. Tyrek, the war criminal, had been listening from the corner. He was a Dominari, tall and thin, with 4 arms and eyes that missed nothing. "Perhaps we should be careful. Humans are unknown to most of us." "They are Category 3, Grisha said. "I have read their file. Soft skin, weak bones, no venom, no claws, no camouflage. They are prey animals who learn to use tools. Nothing more." Danny crawled through the air vents until he found a maintenance junction. He dropped down into a small room filled with pipes and valves. His side was still bleeding. He sat against the wall and opened the medical kit. The wounds were not as bad as they felt. 3 cuts, each about 4 inches long. He cleaned them with antiseptic, then used the small stapler in the kit to close them. "No anestesia." He did not make a sound as the staples punched through his skin. When he was done, he wrapped bandages around his torso and sat for a moment, breathing slowly. He thought about his situation. 7 predators loose on the ship. At least 7, maybe more. He was alone, injured, and had no weapons. The smart thing would be to hide and wait for rescue. But Danny had learned something in the outback. If you hide from a predator, you die tired. Predators are patient. They will wait you out. The only way to survive is to make them afraid of you. He checked his supplies. Flares, sealant, cable. Not much, but enough if he was smart. Grisha led the pack into the lower decks. They moved in formation, with the twins Brel and Suna at the front, their noses testing the air. Behind them came Malo, eager to prove himself after laughing at Hask. Grisha walked in the center, and Tyrek brought up the rear with the wounded Hask. "I smell blood," Suna growled in the subsonic frequency her kind used. "Human blood. Fresh." "It is wounded," Grisha said. "Good. This will be quick." Malo pushed ahead. He was tired of moving slowly. He was a thornback, a perfect killing machine. His 6 limbs could carry him faster than any human could run. His venom could kill in seconds. He did not need to be careful that he saw the tripwire a moment too late. The industrial sealant sprayed directly into his breathing vents. The thick, fast-hardening compound filled his air passages and coated his eyes. Malo thrashed and screamed, clawing at his own face, trying to clear his airways. Danny watched from the shadows of an overhead vent. He did not feel satisfaction. He felt nothing at all. This was survival. There was no room for feelings. The others reached Malo and pulled him back. Grisha used his claws to scrape some of the sealant away from Malo's mouth, allowing him to breathe. But the thornback's venom glands were clogged, his eyes were damaged, and he was coughing blue-green fluid. "I will kill it," Malo rasped. "I will tear it apart." "You will stay back," Grisha ordered. You are compromised. No. Malo pulled away from the group. I am Thornback. I do not hide from prey. He charged deeper into the ship before anyone could stop him. Danny heard him coming. The heavy footsteps, the ragged breathing, the sound of 6 limbs scraping against metal. He moved through the corridors he had already scouted, leading the Thornback toward a section where a coolant pipe had burst. The floor was covered in knee-deep chemical coolant. It was cold enough to burn exposed skin. Danny had wrapped his legs in emergency blankets from the medical kit. It was not comfortable, but it was enough. Malo charged into the flooded section without thinking. The coolant hit his exoskeleton and his joints began to seize. Thornbacks were desert creatures. Their bodies were not designed for cold or moisture. He struggled to move, to lift his limbs, but each movement was slower than the last. Danny emerged from the water behind him. He did not speak. He wrapped the high-tensile cable around Malo's throat and pulled. The Thornback thrashed and fought, but his limbs would not respond. Danny held on, arms burning, muscles screaming, until the thrashing stopped. He unwrapped the cable and stood over the body. Then he reached down and dipped his finger in Malo's blood point. 20 minutes later, the pack found the body. On the wall beside it, written in the Thornback's own blood, was a message. Point 1 of 7. Grisha stared at the words. His claws dug into his palms. It is hunting us, Tyrex said quietly. The prey is hunting us. Then we hunt it back, Grisha growled, and we make it suffer. In the vents above, Danny heard every word. He was already planning his next move. The pack stood around Malo's body in silence. The words on the wall seemed to glow in the red emergency lighting. 1 of 7. The human was counting. This changes nothing, Grisha said. It got lucky. Malo was a fool who ran ahead alone. Tyrek knelt beside the body and examined the marks on the throat. This was not luck. The cable was wrapped 3 times for maximum pressure. The position of the body shows the human approach from behind, through the water. It planned this. It is prey, Grisha insisted. Prey does not hunt, Tyrek replied. Brel and Suna, the twin Kathrani, growled in their subsonic language. They had never seen anything like this. On their world, they were the apex predators. Nothing fought back. Nothing won. We stay together, Grisha ordered. No one separates from the group. We sweep the ship section by section until we find this human and tear it apart. Danny watched them through a gap in the ceiling panels. His side was hurting again. The staples were holding, but the wound was starting to become infected. He had maybe 2 days before it became a serious problem. He needed to end this before then. He moved through the ship like a ghost. 15 years in the Australian outback had taught him how to move without sound. The desert was full of things that hunted by hearing. Snakes, spiders, the occasional crocodile. Danny had learned to step softly, to breathe slowly, to become invisible. The predators were searching in a grid pattern. Grisha was disciplined enough to keep them organized. But discipline only works when everyone follows it. Danny watched the twins. Brel and Suna moved together, always within sight of each other. They communicated through vibrations too low for most species to hear. But Danny had spent years learning to feel vibrations. The ground in the outback could tell you stories if you knew how to listen. He started leaving signs. A drop of his own blood here. A scuff mark there. A torn piece of his uniform caught on a pipe. He was creating a trail, leading the pack through the ship in a wide circle. Then he started appearing. The first time, Haas saw him at the end of a long corridor, just standing there, watching. By the time Hask raised the alarm, Danny was gone. The second time, Suna caught movement in her peripheral vision. A human shape, just for a moment, in the doorway of a storage room. She barked a warning, but when the pack investigated, they found nothing. The third time, Grisha himself saw Danny. The human was standing in an intersection ahead, completely still. Grisha charged without thinking. He covered the distance in seconds, claws ready to kill. But when he reached the intersection, Danny had vanished into a vent that was too small to follow. It is playing with us, Tyrex said. It wants us to be afraid. I'm not afraid, Grisha snarled. Then why are your claws shaking? The twins were the first to break. Brel and Suna had never been separated. They had hunted together since birth, moved as one creature with two bodies. But the constant tension, the fear of the human appearing behind them, it was wearing them down. "We should split up," Brel growled. "Cover more ground. Corner it." "No," Grisha said. "We stay together." "Together, we are slow," Suna argued. "The human is fast. It moves through the vents. We cannot follow. But if we spread out, we can trap it between us." It was bad logic. Danny was counting on it. Grisha finally agreed. The twins would take the port side of the ship. The others would take starboard. They would push the human toward the center, where there was nowhere to hide. Brel and Suna moved through the port corridors, staying in sight of each other. Their subsonic growls echoed back and forth, confirming their positions. Left, right, clear, moving. Danny was in the walls, feeling their vibrations through the metal. He could track their positions by the rhythm of their communication. He waited until they reached a section where the corridor split into 3 branches. He made a sound. A small one, a tap of metal against metal, coming from the center branch. Brel turned toward the sound. Suna turned toward Brel. For just a moment, they were facing different directions. Danny dropped from the ceiling onto Suna. He had wrapped his hands in strips of emergency blanket to protect them. His body hit the Kathrani hard, driving her to the ground. Before she could react, he grabbed her head and twisted with all his strength. The crack echoed through the corridor. Brel spun around and saw his twin lying still, her neck at a wrong angle. Above her, the human was already disappearing into another vent. The scream that came from Brel was not a sound any creature should make. It was grief and rage and madness all combined. He forgot about the hunt. He forgot about the pack. He forgot about everything except the burning need to find the human and destroy it. He ran through the ship alone, howling, following a trail that Danny left for him, deeper and deeper into the lower decks. Toward the cargo bay, AY.I in the command center, Warden can be watched on the damage cameras. She saw the grief-maddened predator running through her ship. She saw the small figure of the human, moving calmly ahead of it, leading it. She had seen humans do many things. She had never seen one do this. On the wall near Suna's body, new words appeared, written in Kathrani blood. Point 2 of 7. Grisha found the message and read it. His scales had gone pale. For the first time in his life, he felt something he did not recognize. Tyrek recognized it. "Fear," he said quietly. "You feel fear." Silence, Grisha hissed, but Tyrek was right, and the human was not finished. Brel ran through the lower decks like a creature possessed. His claws tore gouges in the walls. His howls echoed through every corridor. He did not care about stealth anymore. He did not care about survival. He only cared about finding the thing that had killed Suna. Danny led him to the cargo bay. It was a large space filled with shipping containers and supplies meant for the prison facility. Lots of places to hide. Lots of places to die. Brel charged through the door, nose searching for the human's scent. He found it everywhere. The human had been in this room for hours, moving between containers, touching surfaces, leaving trails that went in circles. "Come out," Brel growled. "Face me. Die with honor." Silence. "My sister was worth 1,000 of you. 1,000,000. You are nothing. You are prey. Come out." The voice came from above. "She died quickly. That was more than she deserved." Brel looked up. The human was standing on top of a container near the back of the bay. Small, thin, wounded. Brel could see the bandages on its side, stained with blood. He could smell the infection starting in its wounds. "I will eat your heart," Brel said. "You can try." Brel leaped onto the nearest container and began running toward the human. He was fast, faster than anything should be. The containers shook under his weight. Danny watched him come, timing his approach. When Brel was 20 feet away, Danny dropped behind the container and ran for the cargo bay door. Brel followed without thinking. He saw only the human, only his prey, only his revenge. Danny made it through the door and slammed his hand on the control panel. The heavy cargo bay door began to close. Brel threw himself forward, trying to make it through before the gap disappeared. He was too slow by half a second. The door sealed. Through the small window, Brel saw the human's face. No expression, no fear, no mercy. Danny pressed another button. The cargo bay began to vent its atmosphere into space. Brel threw himself against the door, clawing at the metal, howling in rage and terror. The air grew thin. His lungs burned. He kept fighting, kept clawing, until his body fell still against the glass. Danny watched until it was over. Then he turned and walked away to eye in the corridors above. The remaining predators heard the howling stop. Grisha, Tyrek, and Hask stood in silence, listening to the absence of sound. "He is dead," Hask said. "Brel is dead." 3 of 7, Tyrek muttered. Grisha grabbed Tyrek by the throat and slammed him against the wall. "Do not count. Do not give this creature power by counting its kills. The counting gives us information," Tyrek said calmly, despite the claws at his throat. 3 dead. 4 alive. Those are facts. Facts help us survive. I am the leader. I decide what helps us survive. Then lead us out of here. Find a defensible position. Wait for rescue. Stop hunting a creature that is better at hunting than we are." Grisha released Tyrek and stepped back. His scales were dark with stress. His eyes moved constantly, checking every shadow. "We go to the command center," Grisha said. "We take the bridge. We take hostages. Then we make demands." It was the first smart thing he had said. Tyrek nodded. They moved together, the 3 survivors, through the upper decks. But Danny was already ahead of them. He had spent 2 years working on this ship. He knew every shortcut, every maintenance tunnel, every forgotten passage. That he reached the command center first. Warden Kimby looked up when the vent opened and Danny dropped into her command center. She raised her weapon, then lowered it when she saw his face. "You're the maintenance worker," she said. "Reeves. Danny Reeves." "Yes, ma'am. I've been watching you on the cameras." "What's left of them?" "I know." She looked at him for a long moment. He was covered in blood, some of it his own, most of it not. His eyes were calm. His hands were steady. "How many?" she asked. 3 so far. 4 left. They're coming here. I saw them on the cameras in Section 7. Danny nodded. "I know. That's why I'm here. To protect me. To use you." The warden's eyes narrowed. "Explain." "They want hostages. They want leverage. If they take you, they have power. But if they think they can take you, they'll come here. Into a space I prepared." And Kimby understood. "You want me to be bait. I want you to be in the safest room on this ship, surrounded by security systems that I've been modifying for the last hour. I want them to come to us instead of hunting us through the corridors. I want to end this." The warden considered this. She had 20 years of experience. She had handled riots, escapes, and alien threats. But she had never seen anything like Danny Reeves. "What do you need from me?" she asked. "When they come to the door, let them in. Then get behind me." "That's it. That's it." And Kimby looked at this small, bleeding, exhausted human. "Who are you?" Danny checked the cable in his hands, tested the weight of the fire extinguisher he had found in the emergency locker, looked at the door. "I'm just a maintenance worker," he said. "From Australia." The door shook. Claws scraped against metal. The predators had arrived. Danny smiled. It was not a nice smile. "Let them in," he said. The command center door was reinforced steel, designed to hold against riots and attacks. Grisha's claws left deep scratches in the surface, but the door held. "Open it," Grisha ordered Tyrek. "You are a military officer. You know systems." Tyrek moved to the control panel beside the door. His 4 hands worked quickly, bypassing security protocols. He had broken into military installations before. A prison transport was not difficult. "Wait," Haas said. His wound was worse now. The infection had spread, and his color-changing skin was stuck in a sickly gray. "This is wrong. The human has been ahead of us at every step. Why would it trap itself in there?" "Because it has nowhere else to go," Grisha said. "We have chased it through the entire ship. This is the end, or wants us to think that." Grisha turned on Hask with fury in his eyes. "You let this creature wound you in your first meeting. You have been useless ever since. Do not speak to me of what it wants." Tyrek finished his work. The door clicked. "Ready. Open it." The door slid open. Inside, they saw the warden sitting at her console and the human standing in front of her. Just standing there, waiting. "Come in," Danny said. "I've been expecting you." Grisha stepped through the door first. His height nearly brushed the ceiling. His claws flexed, ready to tear the human apart. Tyrek followed, then Hask, who was breathing heavily. The door closed behind them. "You trapped yourself," Grisha said. "Three of us. One of you. The warden is not a fighter. This ends now." Danny did not respond. He pressed a button on the console beside him. The lights went out. Complete darkness fell over the command center. Grisha could see in low light, but not in total darkness. He heard movement. Fast movement. Something hit his leg, and he stumbled. He swung his claws and felt them cut through empty air. The Tyrek's eyes were better adapted to darkness. He saw the human moving, using furniture and consoles as cover, staying low. He saw the fire extinguisher swing up and catch Hask in the face. He heard the Galathi fall. "He is to your left," Tyrek called out. Grisha spun and slashed. His claws hit something, but it was a chair, not the human. The emergency lights came on, dim red enough to see shapes. Danny was already behind Grisha, wrapping the cable around his throat. The Vorkin was stronger, much stronger, but Danny had leverage and position. He pulled the cable tight and held on. Grisha thrashed and roared. He reached back, trying to grab the human, but Danny kept moving, staying behind the massive predator. Tyrek moved to help, but the warden raised her weapon. "Stay back," Kimby ordered. Tyrek stopped. He looked at the struggling Grisha, at the human who refused to let go despite being thrown against walls and furniture, at the warden with her steady aim. "This is not worth dying for," Tyrek said. He raised his 4 hands in surrender. "I yield." Grisha's roars became weaker as the cable cut off his air. He fell to his knees. Danny did not let go. The Vorkin's massive body slumped forward, and still Danny did not let go. Only when Grisha stopped moving completely did Danny release the cable and step back. He was breathing hard. Blood seeped through his bandages. But he was alive. Hask lay on the floor, unconscious from the blow to his head. His infected wound had ruptured, and dark fluid pooled beneath him. He would not survive the night without medical attention. Danny looked at Tyrek. The war criminal had not moved. "You yield," Danny said. "I yield. I knew this was a mistake from the beginning. Grisha's pride killed him. And Malo. And the twins. I chose to follow, and that was my error. Yes, it was." Danny walked to the console and sent a signal to the rest of the ship. The security lockdown lifted. Within minutes, the surviving guards would be moving through the corridors, retaking control. "You could kill me," Tyrek said. "I would not blame you. I'm not a killer." Tyrek looked at the bodies around the room. "The evidence suggests otherwise. I'm a survivor. There's a difference." Danny sat down heavily in a chair. The adrenaline was fading, and he could feel every wound, every bruise, every moment of the last hours catching up to him. "Killers enjoy it. I don't enjoy any of this." "Then why did you do it? You could have hidden. You could have waited." Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Because you would have found me eventually. Predators always do. And if I was going to die, I wanted it to be on my terms, fighting back. Not hiding in a vent, waiting for claws to find me." Tyrek considered this. "Your species is classified as Category 3. Minimal threat. The galactic databases are very clear." "I know. The databases are wrong." Danny smiled, though there was no humor in it. "Yes, they are." The door opened. Security officers poured in, weapons raised. They saw the wardens standing, the human bleeding, the war criminal surrendering, and the bodies of the predators who had terrorized the ship. "Stand down," Kimby ordered. "It's over." Danny closed his eyes. His body felt heavy. The infection was getting worse. He needed medical attention, but he was alive. Against all odds, against every predator that had hunted him, he was alive. That was what humans did. They survived, no matter what. Danny woke up in the medical bay. White lights, clean sheets, the steady beep of machines monitoring his vital signs. He was alive that a doctor, a small blue-skinned alien with 6 fingers on each hand, was checking his bandages. She noticed his eyes open and smiled. "You are awake. Good. You lost a lot of blood. The infection was spreading. Another few hours, and it would have reached your organs. How long was I out? 18 hours. The ship has docked at the prison station. Most of the crew has already departed for medical treatment and debriefing. Danny tried to sit up. Pain shot through his side. He fell back against the pillow. Rest, the doctor said. You have done enough. The door opened. Warden Kimby walked in, her uniform clean and pressed, her face tired but relieved. She pulled a chair next to Danny's bed and sat down. Reeves, Warden, the official report will say that the prisoners were killed during an escape attempt. It will mention that crew members defended themselves with whatever means were available. It will not mention that a single maintenance worker hunted down 7 of the most dangerous predators in the galaxy. Why not? And Kimby looked at him carefully. Because if that story got out, every predator species in the known galaxy would see it. Some would be afraid. Others would see it as a challenge. Humans would become targets, either from fear or from hunters wanting to prove themselves. Danny understood. Humans were spread thin across the galaxy. They were traders, workers, settlers. They were not warriors, at least not officially. If word got out about what a single human could do, it would change everything. So, I stay anonymous, Danny said. Officially, you were never here. Officially, the prisoners killed each other in the confusion. Officially, the security team eventually regained control. And unofficially, Kimby leaned back in her chair. Unofficially, I've already submitted a report to the Human Colonial Authority. They have people who track these things. People who understand what humans are capable of when pushed. I'm not special, Danny said. Any human could have done what I did. That's exactly what makes it terrifying. And Kimby stood up. Get some rest, Reeves. When you're healed, there will be a new assignment waiting for you. Better pay, better ship. Consider it a thank you from people who will never be able to thank you publicly. She left. Danny lay in the bed, staring at the ceiling. 3 days later, Danny was walking again. Slowly, carefully, but walking. He made his way to the station's observation deck and found a quiet corner where he could watch the stars. Tyrek was there. The war criminal was in restraints, being escorted by 4 guards toward a shuttle that would take him to his final cell. He saw Danny and stopped. Let me speak to him, Tyrek said to the guards. 1 minute. The guards looked at each other, then at Danny. Danny nodded. They stepped back, keeping their weapons ready. You survived, Tyrek said. Yes. I have been thinking about you, about your species. I spent 30 years as a military officer. I fought in 12 campaigns. I thought I understood predators. I thought I understood hunting. But you taught me something new. What's that? The most dangerous predator is not the one with the biggest claws or the sharpest teeth. It is the one that refuses to stop. The one that will crawl through fire, fight through pain, and keep coming no matter what. That is what makes humans terrifying. Danny was quiet for a moment. Then he said, On my world, there is a saying. It's not about how many times you get knocked down. It's about how many times you get back up. Your world has produced something extraordinary. The galaxy does not know it yet, but they will. The guards pulled Tyrek away. He did not resist. Danny watched the shuttle depart. Then he turned back to the stars. 1 month later, Danny Reeves boarded a new ship. Better pay, better quarters, just like Kimby had promised. He was assigned to maintenance again. He did not mind. He liked working with his hands. He liked solving problems. The captain was a tall woman named Adora. She shook his hand when he came aboard. Reeves, I've heard good things about you. I'm just a maintenance worker. Sure you are. She smiled in a way that suggested she knew more than she was saying. Welcome to the Perseverance. We're heading to the outer colonies. Long journey. Lots of empty space. You up for it? Danny looked at the ship around him. Clean corridors. Humming engines. A crew going about their duties. Normal. Peaceful. Yes, ma'am. I'm up for it. He found his quarters and unpacked his small bag. The only personal item he had was a photograph, creased and faded, of a red desert stretching to the horizon. The Australian outback. Home. He put the photograph on his small desk and looked at it for a long time. Somewhere in the galaxy, predator species were updating their databases. Humans were no longer Category 3. The new classification was still being debated. Some said Category 2. Some said Category 1. A few said humans needed their own category entirely. Danny did not care about categories. He cared about survival, about doing his job, about getting through each day and earning his place in the universe. He was a maintenance worker from Australia. That was all he had ever been. That was all he would ever be. But if something ever came for him again, if predators ever escaped their cages and thought he was easy prey, they would learn the same lesson the others had learned. Humans are not prey. They never were, and they never will be.